Every time you buy groceries, fill up your tank, or check your rent, you can feel it. Your dollar doesn't stretch like it used to. Prices are rising, your paycheck feels smaller, and politicians keep saying it's temporary. But what if inflation isn't just a passing problem? What if it's a symptom of something much deeper? A slow erosion of trust in money itself. Today we're breaking down the ideas from inflation, what it is, why it's bad, and how to fix it. A book that argues inflation isn't just about rising prices. It's about the devaluation of money and the political illusions that let it happen. Part 1. The illusion of inflation. When most of us hear the word inflation, we think of higher prices. $5 eggs, $7 gas, $15 hamburgers. But Steve Forbes and his co-authors argue that's only the surface. Inflation isn't just about what things cost. It's about what the money itself is worth. They define inflation as the distortion of prices that occurs when money loses value. When a currency weakens, every dollar buys less, and society's sense of fairness begins to crumble. This isn't new. From ancient Rome to modern America, governments have always been tempted to create money out of thin air, to pay debts, fund wars, or win elections. But every time they do, the result is the same. The currency collapses, and ordinary people suffer. Forbes compares it to a hidden tax, one that quietly robs savers, workers, and retirees while rewarding debt and speculation. Part 2. A brief history of disaster. To understand inflation, the authors take us on a journey through history, a highlight reel of economic self-destruction. In ancient Rome, emperors diluted the silver in their coins to pay for wars and luxury. By the 4th century, the currency was worthless. Trade collapsed. People returned to barter. Civilization fell into the Dark Ages. In 18th century France, paper money issued by John Law's government fueled wild speculation in the Mississippi bubble. When it burst, the currency imploded, wiping out savings and sparking riots. In Weimar Germany, money printing to pay war reparations turned bread into a million-mark luxury. Hyperinflation didn't just destroy wealth, it destroyed faith in democracy, paving the way for authoritarianism. In our time, the same story repeats. Zimbabwe's $100 trillion bill, Venezuela's wheelbarrows of cash. Each case follows the same pattern. When governments flood economies with money unanchored to value, collapse is inevitable. Part 3. How America lost its way. So what happened to the United States, the world's strongest economy? For decades, the US dollar was the global standard of trust. It was backed by gold, meaning it represented something tangible. But in 1971, President Richard Nixon ended the Bretton Woods gold standard, a system that had stabilized world currencies since World War II. He called it the Nixon shock. And it was exactly that. The dollar was set free to float, unanchored from gold. And from that moment, the age of fiat money began. The result? A half-century of rising prices, falling purchasing power, and economic instability. Since 1970, the US dollar has lost more than 85% of its purchasing power. Gold, once $35 an ounce, now hovers around $1,800. That's not gold getting richer, that's your dollar getting weaker. The authors call this the slow motion inflation. The kind that creeps so gradually, most people don't notice until it's too late. Part 4. The root of the problem. So why does inflation happen? Forbes and Lewis are blunt. It happens because governments and central banks create too much money. They remind us that money isn't wealth. It's a measure of wealth, a tool for exchange, like a ruler or a scale. When the ruler itself keeps shrinking, measurements become meaningless. Businesses can't plan. Workers can't save. Investors chase speculation instead of productivity. And the result? Booms and busts, bubbles and crashes. From the housing collapse of 2008 to the crypto frenzy of the 2020s. The authors also criticize a new economic fad, modern monetary theory, or MMT. It claims that governments can print as much money as they want, as long as they control inflation through taxes and spending. To Forbes and his co-authors, this isn't modern, it's medieval. They call it a dangerous fantasy that always ends the same way, in crisis. Part 5. Why inflation is bad for society. Inflation doesn't just hurt numbers, it corrodes trust. When prices rise faster than wages, people lose faith in banks, in governments, and even in each other. Contracts become meaningless, savings evaporate, and the gap between rich and poor widens. Those who own assets, real estate, stocks, commodities, often gain. Those who rely on wages, the middle class and poor, lose. Inflation, Forbes argues, is the most regressive tax of all. It punishes responsibility and rewards debt. In extreme cases, inflation becomes a political weapon. Desperate populations turn to strongmen who promise stability, no matter the cost. From Rome to Weimar to modern populism, economic chaos always breeds political chaos. Part 6. How to fix it. So how do we fix it? Forbes, Lewis, and Ames argue that inflation can be cured, not by slogans, but by discipline. They outline what Nathan Lewis calls the magic formula: stable money and low taxes. The first step is restoring the dollar's credibility. That means anchoring it to something real, ideally gold. Not by hoarding gold bars in vaults, but by pegging the dollar's value to a fixed weight of gold, just as Isaac Newton did with the British pound in the 18th century, and Alexander Hamilton did with the US dollar in the early republic. When money has a stable value, the economy can grow naturally, because people can trust prices again. The book points to past successes: Ludwig Erhard, who stabilized post-war Germany by restoring sound money; Joseph Dodge, who rebuilt Japan's economy the same way; and Paul Volcker, the US Federal Reserve Chair, who finally crushed the inflation of the 1970s by tightening money supply. Each case proved the same lesson: when money regains its value, confidence and growth return. Part 7. What about our money? But what can ordinary people do? The authors warn that inflation distorts not only everyday prices, but also investments. A booming stock market can hide declining real value. A house that triples in price might not actually make you richer if the dollar has fallen by half. To survive inflationary times, they recommend assets that hold real value: commodities, real estate, inflation-protected securities, and, for the bold, cryptocurrencies. But they caution that digital currencies, like Bitcoin, are too volatile to function as true money. Unless a crypto is pegged to something stable, it's not a measure of value, it's a bet. That's why stablecoins, digital assets linked to the dollar or gold, might be the future, but only if the dollar itself can be trusted. Part 8. The way forward. The authors end on a simple but powerful truth: no nation ever became rich by weakening its money. Wealth comes from creativity, innovation, and trust, not from printing paper. When money is sound, entrepreneurs can take risks, investors can plan for the future, and society can function on fairness, not fear. But when money loses value, everything unravels. Inflation isn't just an economic problem, it's a moral one. It erodes responsibility, rewards speculation, and destroys the link between effort and reward. Forbes and his co-authors argue that restoring sound money is more than a policy choice. It's a cultural renewal. A stable dollar, they say, would unleash a new era of prosperity, innovation, and trust. The challenge is whether our leaders and our citizens have the courage to demand it. Part 9. Key takeaways. Here are the 10 lessons from inflation: what it is, why it's bad, and how to fix it. 1. Inflation isn't just rising prices, it's the falling value of money. 2. Printing money out of thin air always ends in disaster. 3. A little inflation is not healthy, it's addictive. 4. Stable money and low taxes are the foundation of prosperity. 5. Inflation rewards the reckless and punishes the prudent. 6. Every inflationary crisis throughout history has been man-made. 7. Modern monetary theory is a dangerous illusion. 8. Gold remains the best benchmark for monetary stability. 9. True wealth is created by innovation, not currency manipulation. 10. The way forward begins with trust in money, markets, and each other. Part 10. Closing reflection. Inflation is not inevitable. It's a choice, a consequence of how we treat our money, our government, and our future. For decades, we've been told that a little inflation is harmless, that debt doesn't matter, that we can print our way to prosperity. But history, from Rome to Weimar to Washington, tells a different story. Sound money isn't just an economic principle, it's the foundation of civilization. As Forbes, Lewis, and Ames remind us, no nation has ever gotten rich by eroding the value of its money. If we want to rebuild prosperity, we have to rebuild trust, starting with the dollar in our hands. Because when money loses meaning, so does everything else. Inflation, what it is, why it's bad, and how to fix it. By Steve Forbes, Nathan Lewis, and Elizabeth Ames.